I'm the villain's mom. After I woke up, the system tasked me with giving the villain a happy family. I scooped up the villain, who was still just a little fluff ball of a toddler, and stormed my ice-cold husband's house. Honey. Are you abandoning me and our child? Honey, say something. Later, I started thinking maybe I should just get the villain a new dad. He bit my ear, simmering with jealousy. In your dreams. I'm the villain's mom, but I've woken up. The villain, Leo, is my son. The reason Leo became a villain is because of his unhappy home life. It twisted him up inside and forged his dark personality. Leo's parents, me and Simon, had an arranged marriage for business. We couldn't stand each other. I was in love with someone else, but my family forced me into it. My mom even secretly drugged me and Simon, which led to one night of passion and, consequently, Leo. Simon was disgusted that my family had drugged him, so after Leo was born, he wanted nothing to do with him. And me? Between my own dysfunctional family and losing the man I loved, my temper grew worse and worse. I never had a kind word for Leo. Leo grew up starved for affection, and his personality slowly became extreme. Eventually, he became the villain of the story. And then I, Vivian, Leo's cruel mother, suddenly woke up. My past actions replayed in my mind. They were all things I'd done, yet they felt like they belonged to a stranger. Before I could even process it, a system appeared. The system gave me a mission: give Leo a happy family and let him have a joyful childhood. I was speechless. I looked down at the chubby, adorable little toddler by my feet. He was hugging a teddy bear, looking up at me pitifully. I asked uncertainly, "Are you my kid?" Leo's little face scrunched up, his lip trembled, and tears welled in his eyes. "Mommy, don't you want me anymore?" Yes, of course I do." I panicked and rushed to comfort him. "You're Mommy's precious baby, of course I want you." Leo's eyes lit up. "Really?" I nodded. "Really?" Cross my heart. This is the first time Mommy's ever called me her baby. Leo's mood instantly brightened, his eyes crinkling into happy little slits. "I'm Mommy's baby." My heart ached a little. He was this happy over one simple sentence. Just how cold had I been to him before? Kids' moods change in a flash. One second he was happy, the next, his face fell again. He asked timidly, "Mommy, I miss Daddy. When can I see him?" I was stumped. Good question. Where was his dad? Where was my husband? Simon, my husband who purely despised me. Cold personality, terrible temper, but at least he was ridiculously handsome. According to the original story, Simon and I lived separately from the day we got married. He had his own mansion, and we never stayed together. My mom had drugged us at a dinner party, slipping something into our wine when we weren't looking. And boom, one-shot kill. When you think about it, Simon was pretty potent. My mind started to wander. I shook my head, trying to get back on track. The system wants me to give Leo a happy family. That includes a great dad, a loving mom, and a happy little kid. Right now, a key component was missing. No time to waste. I immediately got Simon's address and dragged Leo over there. When we got to Simon's mansion, the front gate was open. We walked through the courtyard and stopped at the front door. I didn't know the code, so I tried the facial recognition. I went first. Access denied. Then I picked up Leo and had him try. Access denied. I fell silent. It's honestly hard to believe the three of us, who are basically strangers, are a family. Well, I had no choice but to resort to the most primitive method, ringing the doorbell. A few seconds later, the door opened. Simon's infuriatingly handsome face appeared. He frowned the moment he saw me. Before he could spit out the word scram, I beat him to it with a cheerful greeting. "Hello. Nice to meet you, I'm your wife." The look on Simon's face screamed, "So you've finally lost your mind." Then he slammed the door in my face. I stood there, stunned. Failure is the mother of success. I rang the doorbell again, then picked up Leo. Your turn. When Simon yanked the door open again, looking thoroughly annoyed, Leo flashed him a sweet smile. Daddy, I'm your son. A double whammy. Leo looked sadly at the closed door. Mommy, does Daddy not like us? Of course he does, I said, lying through my teeth. Your dad was just worried we were hungry, so he's treating us to a cold shoulder. Ha. 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 I couldn't even keep up the fake laugh. After standing in the cold wind for a bit longer, I pressed the doorbell a third time. Simon opened the door, fuming. Vivian. Are you out of your... I slapped my hand over his mouth before he could finish. Don't say that. I shot him a look. The kid's right here. It's a bad influence. Simon just stared at me, bewildered. I picked up Leo and, quick as a flash, slipped into the house. Simon had a border collie named Waffles, who was incredibly sweet. The second I saw Waffles, I entrusted Leo to him. Waffles, quick, take your little brother to the backyard for a bit. I need to talk to your dad. Waffles looked at me, then at Simon. Then, he actually started nudging Leo by the corner of his shirt, leading him toward the backyard. Simon was so mad his jaw went crooked. Vivian. He seethed. What the hell do you think you're doing? Don't use my full name, it's so formal, I said, trying to calm him down. Honey, I was wrong before. Let's make up. Simon's icy face looked like it was about to cause an avalanche. Whatever you are, get out of Vivian's body right now. I thought for a moment, then delivered a classic parent line. Look, it's not like I'm thrilled about this either. But we have to do it for the child. A child's youth can't be without his parents. Everything for the child. For the child's everything. We can just tolerate each other and make it work. What do you think, honey? I don't know if it was just my imagination, but I could practically see steam coming out of his ears. He said, get out. I replied, yes sir. I got out. Promptly. Because I knew Simon was about to discover he'd thrown out the big one but forgotten about the small one. Sure enough, less than 5 minutes later, his call came through. Naturally, I didn't answer it. It wasn't until an hour later that I returned to his mansion. The moment I rang the doorbell, the door flew open. Simon was holding Leo by the collar of his shirt. He basically tossed Leo into my arms. Take him and get out. And don't come back. Then he slammed the door. I took Leo home. On the way, I asked him, what did you do at your dad's house? Leo thought for a moment. I ate cookies, played hide and seek, and we played fetch in the backyard. My eyes went wide with surprise. Your dad played with you? He shook his head. No, Waffles played with me. Waffles brought me the cookies, too. Daddy was working in his study. I even brought Daddy some washed grapes while he was working, and he didn't say no. Such a well-behaved dog and a sweet little boy. Such an ill-behaved Simon. But no matter what, at least Leo and his dad got a little more familiar this time. So a week later, I used the same trick and sent Leo back to Simon's house. To prevent Simon from slamming the door in my face, this time I put Leo on the doorstep, rang the bell, and quickly hid behind the gate to watch. The door opened. The second he saw Simon, Leo did as I taught him. He held up the bag of fruit and greeted him, "Good afternoon, Daddy. I brought you some apples and bananas, to wish you peace and no anxiety." Simon was silent for 2 seconds. "Did your mother teach you that cringy pun?" "What's a pun?" Leo blinked. "Can I come in, Daddy?" "Where's your mother? Did she just dump you here alone?" Simon seemed to know I was still nearby and raised his voice. "Vivian, get out here. You think I won't just lock him out?" Oh my God. What a ruthless father. Simon started counting down. 3, 2. Just as I was about to run out, something bumped into Simon, stopping him from closing the door. It was Waffles. Waffles barked angrily at Simon twice, then started nudging Leo's shirt, trying to pull him inside. Waffles, Simon said, incredulous. Whose side are you on? Waffles didn't answer, just kept nudging Leo and trotted into the house without a backward glance. Simon slammed the door with a loud bang. Watching from a distance, I gave Waffles a silent thumbs up. Is this what they call PAW Patrol to the rescue? With Waffles on the case, I went shopping with a clear conscience. I accidentally shopped for a little too long. Worried that Leo might have overstayed his welcome and annoyed Simon, I hurried back. Building a relationship takes time, after all. But when I rang the bell and the door opened a moment later, I saw a teary-eyed Leo. Leo? I was surprised. What's wrong? Where's your dad? Leo pulled me toward the bedroom. Daddy has a fever. He looks like he's in a lot of pain. I went into the bedroom and saw Simon lying on the bed, his face pale and his brow furrowed. Simon? I called out. Are you okay? He opened his eyes. When he saw it was me, his expression soured even more. I'd be fine if you weren't here. Take Leo and go. You're sick, how can you kick people out? I suspected his lips were coated in poison. He could probably kill himself just by licking them. Neither Simon nor I were taking his sickness seriously, but Leo was about to cry. Mommy, is Daddy okay? Is he going to die? I noticed a washcloth on Simon's forehead and asked Leo, what's this? I put it there for Daddy. I also made him some cold medicine to drink. He pointed to an empty cup on the nightstand. Daddy drank it, but he's still not better. I was a little shocked. He drank it? Simon actually let Leo put a cloth on his head? And he drank the medicine Leo made? Honey, I whispered mischievously in his ear. You drank the cold medicine your son made for you? Looks like you don't hate our son that much after all. Simon kept his eyes shut and coldly tossed out a single word, scram. Seeing him like this, I got even cheekier, leaning in closer to lie, and I've got more good news for you. The cloth on your head? It's the rag we use to wipe the living room floor. 6-6-in. Simon couldn't take it anymore. He shot his eyes open and yelled my name. But maybe because we were so close, the moment our eyes met, something felt off. Simon was gorgeous. The fever had flushed his cheeks, giving him a vulnerable, almost pitiful look. I could even feel his breath on my skin. I swallowed hard. This is not good. I need to run. But just as I started to get up, something furry bumped into me. From the feel of it, it was the butt of a very large, very fluffy dog. I lost my balance and fell forward. And just like that, my lips brushed against Simon's cheek. Oh, crap. After a 2-second freeze, I realized what had happened and scrambled back about 6 feet. Simon seemed stunned too. Even his ears were turning red. He didn't even yell at me. Leo's grin stretched from ear to ear. And the culprit, Waffles, was wagging his tail like a windshield wiper, looking immensely proud of himself. My heart broke. Waffles. Bad dog. No treats for you. I ran. I grabbed Leo and ran for my life. Leo was still reluctant to leave his deadbeat dad. Mommy, Daddy's all alone. Isn't that sad? I said righteously, he's a grown man. He'll take some medicine and be fine. But what if you catch it? I'm not afraid of catching it. Leo's little head was filled with big worries. What if Daddy dies alone in the house? I had already driven Leo home, but by nighttime, his little face was still scrunched up with worry, as if Simon was about to breathe his last. Sigh. What a mess. Late at night, I had no choice but to take Leo back to Simon's mansion. I put a mask on Leo before ringing the doorbell again. After about 30 seconds, Simon's hoarse voice came through the intercom. Vivian, are you treating my house like a tourist attraction? Don't be like that, honey. What's your house or my house? This is our house. I said to the camera on the lock. Our son wants to perform his filial duties at your sickbed. Hurry up and tell us the code to our house. Simon was clearly too angry to speak properly. I think you're the one with the fever, not me. Why would I tell you my security code? Fine, if you won't tell me the code, then you come down and open the door yourself. I was getting annoyed. Hurry up. Stop being so wishy-washy. Leo's little voice piped up, Daddy, are you okay? Mommy and I are here to take care of you. Another 10 seconds passed. Just as I was about to lose my patience and leave, Simon finally gave us the code. 246754. Once inside, Leo's little legs carried him at top speed into Simon's room. Daddy, I'm here. Are you still alive? Simon looked a little better, but he was still weak. Why are you guys here again? Mommy and I are here to keep you company. Leo held on to Simon with one hand and me with the other. When I'm sick, I hate being alone. I really want you and Mommy to be with me. So I thought, when you're sick, you must be lonely too. You must want me and Mommy with you. Both Simon and I froze. I could perfectly imagine how, before I'd woken up, would have been completely indifferent when Leo was sick. Simon was silent. He must have been thinking the same thing. I squeezed Leo's hand and told him to go play with Waffles, saying I would take care of Simon. So, honey? Feeling a deep sense of guilt? I sidled up to Simon once Leo was gone. It's okay, it's not too late to change. I sincerely extended an invitation. Want to join me in building a civilized, loving, model family? I don't know if it was because he was sick or just annoyed with me, but Simon looked like he had a massive headache. Vivian, what right do you have to say that to me? It was your family who drugged me and irresponsibly brought Leo into this world. His words hit hard. I couldn't argue. My shoulders slumped. I was wrong. You. Simon was shocked. What's gotten into you? Aren't you always proud? You never apologize. If giving Leo a happy family was just a system mission before, now I truly, from the bottom of my heart, wanted to make him happy. Leo was just too sweet. He never gave me any trouble. He ate, slept, and played all by himself. If he accidentally broke something, he'd get so scared I'd get mad and ignore him, crying his little eyes out and begging for forgiveness. My old self had a bad temper, and Simon wasn't much better, yet Leo was completely different from both of us. It's hard to imagine how such a sweet kid could turn into a paranoid, dark villain. I was wrong. I was really wrong. A wise woman knows when to yield. I grabbed Simon's hand. Honey, it was all my fault before. Let's start being lovey-dovey from today on. Simon looked at me. I looked back at him with deep affection. Half a second later, his mouth twitched. Dream on. Another failure. But I'm an optimist. After all, I could tell Simon was moved by what Leo had said. Simon had taken medicine and didn't really need much looking after. Leo and I found a room and slept soundly through the night. The next morning, Simon had recovered, and Leo and I had done our duty. Before we left, I sent him the security code to our mansion. Even though it was our marital home, Simon had barely ever stayed there. So at first, he didn't realize what the code was for. He asked, "What's this?" I said, "It's the code to our house." Simon quickly caught on. "There's no need. That's your house, not mine." I shamelessly replied, "Hey, don't be a stranger. It's our house." Simon couldn't be bothered to reply. Ever since I got his security code, I started taking Leo over to his place from time to time to make our faces known. Simon went from being shocked, disbelieving, and calling me shameless to... Well, he still looked annoyed, but he stopped saying anything. I was a little surprised myself. I had been fully prepared for him to change the code and had even spent 5 minutes secretly teaching Waffles how to open the door. Turns out, Waffles wasn't needed. Even though he'd say, "Don't just show up unannounced next time," Simon never changed the code. At first, I only dared to leave Leo at his house. Later, I got bolder and started shamelessly hanging around myself. We were never meant to be. It's all thanks to my thick skin. After the umpteenth time of forcing my way into dinner at Simon's, I was full and content, lounging on the sofa and watching him thoughtfully. Simon had never actually invited us to stay for dinner. It was always me, shamelessly mooching. But coincidentally, the housekeeper always made enough food, not just with a special meal for Leo, but also with my favorite dishes. Leo was incredibly well behaved. He didn't need to be fed, just ate big spoonfuls by himself, getting pumpkin puree on his face. I was going to wait until he was done to wipe it off, but surprisingly, Simon, who was still eating, glanced at Leo, picked up a napkin, and wiped his mouth for him. Leo was super sweet. "Thank you, Daddy." I quickly grabbed my phone to capture this tender father-son moment. Hearing the camera click, Simon whipped his head around to look at me. "Don't get the wrong idea," he said, hastily tossing the napkin on the table. He was a mess. I couldn't stand looking at it, that's all. I smiled and played along. "I know, honey. Vivian." Simon gritted his teeth. "How many times have I told you not to call me honey?" I nodded obediently. "Okay, honey." Simon took several deep breaths, lost his appetite, and went back to his study. I followed him all the way there. "Honey, are you free next Friday?" He sat down at his desk. "No." "Well, make some time." I took the day off too. I walked over to the desk. "Leo's preschool is having a parent-child field day. I can't get away." Simon opened his laptop without even looking at me. "You can just go." I didn't get angry. How is that the same? Our little boy said he really wants us to go together. Simon continued to ignore me. "Please." I squeezed my head between him and his laptop, looking straight at him. "Let's go together, honey." Caught off guard, our eyes met. To sweeten the deal, I even fluttered my lashes at him dramatically. Swoosh. Simon jerked backward. He seemed a bit flustered, and his ears were a little red. I was still waiting for his answer, but he shot up and walked away as if I were some kind of monster. I was just standing there like. I don't know if it was my relentless pestering over the next few days, but Simon finally agreed. The night before the field day, Leo called Simon on my phone. "Daddy, you're coming tomorrow, right?" Simon said, "I will." I took the phone and added, "Honey, wear a white shirt tomorrow. It'll match my white dress." Simon was silent for a few seconds. "Are you going to a preschool or a fashion show?" I ignored him and continued, "Make sure you look handsome, okay? Don't embarrass me and our son." Without a moment's hesitation, Simon hung up. On the day of the field day, he drove over to pick up me and Leo. When he got out of the car wearing a white dress shirt, my jaw dropped. I mean, Simon was always handsome, but maybe because his temper was so awful, his good looks were kind of diminished in my mind. But today, I don't know if he'd gotten his hair professionally styled, but it was neat and sharp, and the shirt perfectly accentuated his model-like physique. Simon took Leo's backpack with one hand. When Leo held out his little hand and said, "Daddy, hold my hand," he let out a slightly exasperated sigh and took Leo's hand with his other. The two of them, big hand holding little hand, walked ahead of me. I watched this picture of fatherly love and filial piety, covering my mouth to hold back tears. Simon put Leo in the car, then turned to see me snapping pictures like crazy. He looked confused. "What are you taking pictures of now?" My praise was genuine. "You're just a little too handsome today, honey. Enough with that nonsense. Get in the car." Simon sat in the driver's seat with a blank expression, but his slightly red ears gave him away. I hadn't had high expectations for this field day, figuring it would just be parents and kids doing some little activities together. But the moment I saw Leo's 24-year-old, fit and sunny gym teacher, Mr. Collins, I changed my mind. I'm so glad I came today. While Leo and Simon were busy with arts and crafts, I sidled up to Mr. Collins and greeted him warmly. Mr. Collins, hi, I'm Leo's mom. Mr. Collins flashed a bright, youthful smile. Leo's mom, hi there. Using the excuse of discussing Leo's performance in school, I managed to get Mr. Collins's number. Just as I was busy cozying up to him, a cold voice came from behind me. Vivian. Huh? I turned around, confused, and saw Simon looking dark and stormy. What's wrong with him now? Weren't they just doing crafts? Who pissed him off? Hi, you must be Leo's dad. Mr. Collins saw him and was very enthusiastic. You two are both so good-looking, no wonder Leo is so cute. I don't know what magic was in those words, but Simon's face instantly cleared up. He gave a slightly awkward cough. Thank you, teacher. Simon nodded, then pulled me away. Let's go. Leo's waiting for you. Oh, okay. I reluctantly said goodbye to Mr. Collins and went back to our spot. I excitedly asked Leo, how come you never told me your gym teacher was so hot? Leo tilted his head. But I think Daddy is hotter. Simon, who had let out a cold snort at my words, now patted Leo's head with satisfaction after hearing his comment. You have better taste than your mother. I was just like. The field day was only half a day long. After a few little games, it was over. As it was ending, it was obvious Leo really didn't want to leave. I smiled and asked him, Leo, did you have that much fun? So much fun. Leo is super happy. Leo was smiling so wide his eyes disappeared. Last time, at the other field day, you didn't come. Jason said you probably didn't like me, but I said that's not true. This time he saw you both come together, so now he'll know you really do love me. Jason was a classmate of Leo's at preschool. Kids say the darndest things, and he probably didn't mean any harm, but Leo must have been heartbroken back then. But he was still so good. He didn't make a fuss, didn't throw a tantrum, and only brought it up today like it was nothing. Simon was speechless for a moment. I was silent too. After a moment, I knelt down to be at eye level with Leo and said to him seriously, Sweetie, don't listen to him. We love you very much. Leo blinked and happily replied, I know. I love Mommy and Daddy very much too. I kissed his little cheek. Simon, who had been watching us quietly, suddenly spoke up. Leo, has your friend Jason gone home yet? Leo's round eyes scanned the area, then he pointed. Not yet. He's over there with his mom. Simon picked Leo up with one arm and took my hand with the other. Let's go say hi to Leo's friend. I didn't get it at first and was a bit confused, but I let him lead me over to Jason and his mom. When Jason saw Leo, he waved. Leo, your mom and dad both came. Leo puffed out his chest proudly. Yep. Simon first exchanged pleasantries with Jason's mom, then put Leo down, knelt, and looked at Jason with a serious expression. Hello, Jason. I'm Leo's dad. I watched him, suddenly realizing what he was about to do. Sure enough, Simon continued, I love Leo very much. And his mom does too. Jason just stared blankly, clearly not understanding why Simon was telling him this. Simon stood up and said a polite goodbye. We're heading out. Come over to our house to play sometime. Leo waved too. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Leo held my hand with his left and Simon's with his right. He kept looking from me to his dad, then back again, just giggling foolishly. Noticing his silly expression, I pinched his cheek. What are you giggling about? Leo's eyes were sparkling, and he didn't say anything else, just kept giggling. Simon looked at me with mock pity. I think your son has gone silly. I immediately retorted, "Nonsense. Your son is the one who's silly." Simon was speechless. Maybe because he had so much fun today, Leo was still very clingy even after Simon drove us home that evening, begging him to stay a little longer. Probably not wanting to spoil Leo's mood, Simon didn't refuse. And so, a little longer turned into 9 o'clock, Leo's bedtime. "All right, time for bed. Say goodnight to Daddy." Leo hugged Simon's arm, unwilling to let go. "Daddy, don't go tonight. Can you sleep here, please?" I sucked in a sharp breath. Other kids' mommies and daddies stay together at night. Leo sniffled, looking pitiful. "Can you and Mommy tuck me in together tonight, please?" Of course, I had thought about this. The happy family Leo wanted would require me and Simon to live together. I just figured I shouldn't rush things. Getting Simon to attend a preschool event with Leo was already a huge step forward. The rest could wait until their bond deepened. I wondered just how much Leo meant to Simon now. I snuck a glance at him. Simon was quiet for a moment, lost in thought. No answer meant no. "Leo, your dad has things to do when he gets home." I figured we'd drop it for now and wait until the father-son bond was stronger. "Next time." "It's fine," Simon interrupted me. "I can." I stared at him, stunned. "Huh?" Simon didn't look at me, just picked Leo up with one arm. "Come on, let's get you a bath." Seeing Leo sitting obediently in the bathtub while Simon lathered him up with soap, I was as shocked as if I'd seen a pig fly. Simon rinsed the bubbles off Leo, then turned to me, standing there with my mouth wide open, and held out his hand. I was still reeling from the shock of Simon's expert bath-giving skills, my brain a complete fog. I don't know what I was thinking, but I instinctively placed my hand in his. Simon's hand was large and damp, his palm warm where it touched mine. Simon looked at me like I was an idiot. "The towel." Oh, right. I was startled by my own actions, quickly pulling my hand back and handing him the towel. The doorbell rang, giving me the perfect excuse to escape. I opened the door to a young man in a suit. "Good evening, ma'am. I'm Simon's assistant." He handed me a bag. Simon asked me to bring over his clothes. I took the bag. "Thank you so much for coming all this way so late at night." After he left, I took the bag back to the bedroom. Leo was already in his pajamas, rolling around on the bed. Simon sat on the edge, watching him. Maybe it was hot, because he had unbuttoned the top few buttons of his shirt. It had gotten wet while he was bathing Leo, and I could faintly see the outline of his abs. "Mommy, why are you swallowing?" Leo looked at me, confused. "Are you thirsty?" Simon shot me a thoughtful look. "Your clothes." My face flushed red. I turned my head away. "Go get changed." "All right." Simon took the clothes to change, and I quickly changed into my pajamas and lay down on the bed to read Leo a story. Halfway through the story, Simon came in wearing his pajamas and naturally lay down on the other side of the bed. Seriously, how does he look so handsome even in pajamas? I fought back my wicked thoughts, not daring to look at him, and continued reading to Leo. Leo was a good sleeper. Usually, by the time the story was over, he was out. But for some reason, tonight, even after 2 stories, he was wide awake, his eyes darting back and forth between his dad and me, giggling to himself. "Stop giggling and go to sleep." I pretended to be annoyed and pinched his nose. "I'll go to sleep right now," Leo said, afraid I was mad, and immediately shut his eyes. But less than 3 seconds later, he opened his round eyes again and looked at Simon. "Daddy, when I wake up tomorrow, will you still be here?" Simon pinched his nose too. "I will." Only then did Leo contentedly go to sleep. Soon, his breathing became deep and even. Leo was an easy sleeper. I only needed a few minutes to tuck him in, and he would sleep soundly until morning without me having to stay. So, seeing him asleep, I planned to get up and go back to my own room. Just as I was about to tell Simon he should go too, I realized he was looking at me. He was propped up on one elbow, watching me quietly, his thoughts unreadable. The room was lit by a single small nightlight, its warm yellow glow enveloping us in an indescribable atmosphere. Maybe it was the mood, but on a whim, I whispered his name. "Honey?" He grunted, Afraid of waking Leo, I leaned in closer, looked into his dark eyes, and said, "Do you want to move in with us?" I must have been possessed. I actually invited Simon to move in with us. The moment I realized what I'd said, I bolted, not even waiting for his answer. I tossed and turned all night, my stomach in knots. The next morning, I was so jumpy I even tiptoed into the dining room for breakfast. But Simon was completely normal, acting like nothing had happened. He didn't even mention moving in. I should have been relieved, but for some reason, a little fire of indignation started burning inside me. "You little. Playing deaf on me now, are we?" "Fine." "Ha. As if I was dying for you to move in." I thought that would be the end of it, but a few days later, when I got home from work, I saw Waffles frolicking in the yard. I thought my job was making me hallucinate. I called out, "Waffles?" Hearing his name, Waffles came bounding toward me, tackled me to the ground, and started rubbing all over me. That mountain-like weight, that furry texture, it was real. I walked into the living room and saw Simon, directing movers carrying luggage. Leo saw me and ran over. "Mommy, you're home from work." I just stood there and managed a dazed, "Huh?" before looking at Simon, completely lost. "What's with that look?" Simon said. "Weren't you the one who asked me to move in with you?" I felt a little guilty for some reason. "You heard that?" "Of course," Simon said, as if my question was bizarre. "I'm not deaf." I was still feeling guilty when Leo's innocent voice piped up, "Daddy, aren't you going to share a room with Mommy?" Simon, who was in the middle of telling the movers to put his things in the room next to mine, froze. I froze too. Leo's eyes were shining with a million hopeful little stars as he looked back and forth between us. I shot Simon a look, signaling him to hurry up and fudge an explanation. But for some reason, Simon seemed to have no intention of explaining. Instead, he crossed his arms and looked at me, thoroughly amused. My brain went into overdrive. "Sweetie, listen to Mommy. It's not that I don't want to sleep with your dad. It's just that he snores so loudly, he keeps me up all night." I kept spinning the tale. If Mommy doesn't sleep well, she can't focus at work. If she can't focus at work, her boss won't give her a paycheck. And if Mommy doesn't have a paycheck, she can't buy you yummy snacks. So, Mommy has to sleep in a different room from Daddy. Leo looked at me with teary eyes and patted my head. "Mommy, you work so hard." Simon's face was dark, but he didn't blow up. It wasn't until Leo was asleep that he came to settle the score. "Vivian, I snore?" I said, completely justified, "Well, if I didn't say that, we'd have to sleep together, and you definitely wouldn't want that." "Oh." Simon looked at me. "You didn't ask me. How would you know I wouldn't want to?" "Oh, my God." I snapped my head up to look at him, my mind instantly conjuring an image of him fresh from the shower, his bathrobe loosely tied, revealing toned abs as he lounged on the bed waiting for me. My eyes practically lit up, and I said shyly, "Oh? So? Would you want to sleep with me?" Simon smiled, his eyes crinkling, and uttered 3 heartless words, "Not a chance." I screamed, "Get out." Furious and embarrassed, I decided to unilaterally give Simon the silent treatment. This manifested as me letting out an exaggerated, icy huff whenever I walked past him, ordering Waffles to periodically kick him, and refusing the Basque cheesecakes he brought home for me and Leo. Seeing that I wasn't eating mine, Leo wouldn't eat his either. "Mommy, aren't you going to eat it? Isn't this the one you were bugging Daddy to stand in line for?" Simon scooped a spoonful for him. "It's okay, you go ahead and eat. Your mom will just sneak down in the middle of the night to eat it." I started to sweat. That was literally what I was planning to do. After a few days of helpless rage, I finally came to my senses. Ha! Does a happy family really have to be a family of 3? Ha! And even if it does the father figure have to be Simon? My thinking has been too narrow. Why can't I just find Leo a new dad? Mr. Collins seems like a great candidate. The thought of Mr. Collins lifted my mood from cloudy to sunny. I couldn't hide my smile as I called out to Leo, "Leo, is your swimsuit packed? We're heading to swim class soon." Packed. Leo showed me his little backpack, with his goggles, swimsuit, and cap all neatly arranged inside. My smile must have been a little too obvious. It was a complete 180 from the past few days, and Simon gave me a suspicious look. Leo has a swim class. Why are you so happy about it? I put on a serious face. Seeing Leo improve day by day, how could I not be happy as a mother? Really? Simon clearly didn't buy it, but he said anyway, "Fine, I'll drive you." Simon drove us to the pool. He was about to walk us in, but I quickly stopped him. No. You should just go home. You don't need to pick us up, we'll get a cab. He looked like he wanted to say something else, but I had no time for him. I grabbed Leo's hand and ran. The moment I saw Mr. Collins in nothing but swim trunks, I felt like the world had become a more beautiful place. The second I found out Mr. Collins taught a weekend swim class, I didn't hesitate for a second to sign up. It wasn't for me, of course. It was purely to help Leo learn an important life-saving skill. Mr. Collins greeted us warmly. "Leo, Vivian, you're here." "Here we are," I said, smiling so wide my eyes disappeared. "We're in your hands today, Mr. Collins." "No trouble at all." Mr. Collins took Leo's hand and led him into the water. I sat on the edge of the pool and took out my phone. When Leo saw me filming, he happily waved his little hands at me. I looked at the screen, admiring Mr. Collins's abs, and a genuine smile spread across my face. This blissful state lasted until the class was almost over, when Leo's voice, like a clap of thunder, jolted me back to reality. "Daddy, what are you doing here?" I flinched. Only then did I belatedly realize the laser-like gaze boring into my back was Simon's. Simon's smile was terrifying. "Having fun? What are you doing here?" I laughed awkwardly. "I was just recording Leo's swimming." "Were you?" Simon, practically radiating green-eyed jealousy, took my phone and played the video I'd just recorded. "This is a video of your son swimming? How is it that 3/4 of the screen is the young coach's abs? Your son only makes a brief cameo in the corner." I scratched my neck, looking around everywhere but at him, pretending to be deaf. Simon, who was usually a man of few words, must have been truly set off by me, because he started nagging me the entire way home. That explains it. The other day when it was pouring rain, you insisted on taking Leo to swim class, saying you wanted to teach him the valuable quality of not giving up in the face of adversity. He didn't stop even when we got home. And I was wondering why, to take Leo swimming, you needed to spend half an hour on makeup and carefully select your jewelry. Anyone would think you were going to a fashion gala. Even at Leo's bedtime, Simon said to him very seriously, "Leo, let's make a deal. Can you please learn how to swim by the next lesson so we don't have to go anymore?" I couldn't take it anymore and dragged him out of the room. "Simon, why are you so petty?" Simon pinched my cheek with one hand. "I am just this petty." Seeing him like this, I couldn't help but laugh. "Are you jealous, honey?" I just thought this pouty side of Simon was rare and amusing, so I wanted to tease him. But Simon admitted it without hesitation. "Yes. You're only just now figuring that out?" His sudden frankness left me stunned. Simon's handsome face drew closer and closer. "Honey, we..." Before he could finish, the door to Leo's room suddenly opened. "Daddy, I forgot to drink my milk before bed." People get very busy when they're embarrassed. I shoved Simon away, shot over to the dog bed, and shook a resting Waffles awake. Don't sleep, Waffles. How can you be sleeping at a time like this? Get up, let's go for a run. Waffles had played hard all day and gone to sleep early. He was dead to the world when I suddenly snapped a leash on him and dragged him out the door. In the darkness of the night, Waffles let out a few confused and desperate barks. In that moment, I think I understood dog language. He was probably saying, I may not be human, but you are a real monster. On Leo's 5th birthday, I ordered him a double-layer lava cheesecake. It's not because I want to eat it, I explained to Simon, my denial only making me look more guilty. I saw Leo's eyes linger on this cake for a full 5 seconds the other day. I instantly sensed his deep desire for it. Simon faked a sigh. We'll have to get Leo's spine checked. He's so young to be carrying such a heavy burden for you. I didn't hesitate to throw a punch at him. But before my fist could land, he caught my hand with a smile and gave it a gentle squeeze. Sigh. He took advantage of me. Oh well, I'll get him back next time. Since this was the first time we were celebrating Leo's birthday together, we spent the whole day playing with him and showering him with gifts, hoping to make up for the past. Leo, my sweet little boy, lived up to his name. The moment he saw the cake, he beamed with a 100-watt smile. Wow, I love it. Thank you, Mommy. We sang him happy birthday, with Waffles providing a barking accompaniment. After the song, Leo closed his eyes, clasped his little hands together, and quietly made a wish. After he blew out the candles, I started cutting the cake. I was concentrating on the task when Leo suddenly called out, Mommy. I turned to look at him. What is it? I froze. Leo, so small, was holding a bouquet of flowers almost as big as he was. It looked a little heavy, making his steps a bit wobbly. His chubby little face was almost completely hidden by the flowers, and his sweet voice came from behind them. Mommy. Flowers for you. I was at a loss for a moment, until Simon prompted me, go on, take the flowers our son got for you. Thank you, sweetie. I took the huge bouquet and planted a kiss on Leo's cheek. Simon leaned in to take some credit. I paid for them. It was a happy day, so I was generous with my kisses. Buy one, get one free. I gave him a peck on the cheek too. Why the sudden flowers? It was hard for Mommy when I was born, Leo said, blinking. Thank you, Mommy. I love you. Tears and snot started streaming down my face. Simon wiped my tears. Okay, don't cry. Your snot's going to drip into your favorite cheesecake. I quickly sniffled. The thought that Leo was such a little angel, and that if I hadn't woken up, he would have slowly become withdrawn, stubborn, and dark, eventually turning into a villain with a tragic end, made me shudder with fear. Leo was so excited he didn't fall asleep until late. After I tucked him in, I saw Simon in the living room, cleaning up the mountain of toys. I pulled him over to share in my guilt. Simon, we have to make it up to our boy from now on, okay? Okay, Simon agreed readily. Whatever we did wrong before, we'll fix it. Leo secretly told me his wish just now, I said, then asked Simon, do you have any wishes? I do, he said with a straight face. I wish Leo would learn to swim already, and once he does, we're done. I can swim too. I'll take him from now on. No way, I said teasingly. If we stop going, I won't be able to see Mr. Collins's abs anymore. Simon shot me a sideways glance. His look gave me the chills. What? He said, is just looking enough? Huh? His question threw me for a loop. What do you mean? Simon leaned down, getting closer. Then he raised a hand and undid the top 2 buttons of his shirt, revealing the faint hint of his V-line. I shamelessly swallowed. Let me be Leo's coach, honey, Simon's voice was low. I have abs too. Not only can you look, you can touch. Beauty is a dangerous thing. I pretended to think about it with some restraint. All right, fine. Simon smiled and kissed my forehead. By the way, you said Leo told you his wish. What was it? I smiled and squeezed Simon's hand. Before he fell asleep, Leo was so happy his eyes were smiling crescents. Mommy, I'm so happy today. I'm glad you're happy, I said, stroking his hair. Mommy, I'll tell you a secret. He scooted closer to me. I used to think you and Daddy didn't like me. I would cry holding my teddy bear. The teddy bear was Leo's favorite toy, he even slept with it. Last year, on my birthday, I wished that you would like me. And my wish really came true. You really do like me now. So my wish for this year will definitely come true too. Tears were welling up in my eyes again. I pinched his little cheek. Sweetie, we will always love you. Emichum. Leo finally seemed sleepy. His eyelids grew heavy, and his voice got quieter. I whispered, Sweetie, what's your wish for this year? Whatever it was, I wanted to make it come true for him. Leo hugged his teddy bear, his voice soft and sleepy. Daddy, Mommy, me, and Waffles. We'll be the happiest family forever.